What if the most powerful brain medicine in human history has been sitting in your kitchen, your garden, or your local health food store, and no one told you? Not because the research doesn't exist. It does. Hundreds of peer-reviewed studies, decades of clinical trials, ancient physicians who documented it with a precision that still astonishes modern neurologists. But here's the thing about a plant. You cannot patent it. You cannot own it. And if you cannot own it, there is very little financial incentive to put it on the front page. So it disappears, not from nature, but from conversation. Today, that changes. Plant number 6, a plant so ordinary you have almost certainly cooked with it this week, was shown at the University of Northumbria to improve a specific type of memory by 75% in human beings, simply from its aroma. And plant number 5, the only natural substance on Earth known to stimulate your brain to generate new nerve cells, was reserved exclusively for monasteries and imperial courts in Tang Dynasty China. They called it the Mountain Priest. They had no idea what nerve growth factor was, but they were right. This is what we do here. Ancient plants, modern confirmation, healing rediscovered. Subscribe and hit the bell. The links for every herb covered today are in the description below. Here are the 7 forgotten herbs that reverse memory loss and shield your brain from dementia, ranked from the most familiar to the most extraordinary. Plant 1. Rosemary, Rosmarinus officinalis. Rosemary is the herb you already own, and it may be the most underestimated medicine in your home. In ancient Greece, students preparing for examinations wove sprigs of rosemary into their hair, not as decoration, as medicine. The Greeks dedicated it to Mnemosyne, the goddess of memory. The Romans carried the tradition further. Medieval healers used it at weddings and funerals alike, to remember vows, to honor the dead. The first perfume in Western history, the Queen of Hungary's water, recorded in 1370, was a rosemary tonic used as an anti-aging elixir. 3 continents, 23 centuries. The same observation, made independently, again and again. That is not folk custom. That is accumulated human data. What is happening inside the brain? Rosemary contains rosmarinic acid and 1,8-cineol. Both inhibit acetylcholinesterase, the enzyme that breaks down acetylcholine, your brain's primary memory neurotransmitter. Think of it as this. Acetylcholine is the signal that carries a memory from formation to storage. Acetylcholinesterase is the circuit breaker that shuts it down too fast. Rosemary keeps the circuit open longer. This is, notably, the identical mechanism of donepezil, the most prescribed Alzheimer's drug in the world. The Romans had no idea, but they were not wrong. Researchers at the University of Northumbria placed participants in rooms diffused with rosemary essential oil, not consuming it, simply breathing it. Those subjects scored 75% higher on prospective memory tests compared to an unscented room. Published in Therapeutic Advances in Psychopharmacology, 2016. Pharmaceutical companies can't patent a plant that grows in a garden pot, so this study was noted and quietly set aside. To use it, diffuse rosemary essential oil during work or study. As a supplement, 500 to 750 milligrams of standardized extract daily. Caution: avoid therapeutic doses during pregnancy. May interact with blood thinners. Links in the description. Rosemary is the familiar beginning. The next herb lived for 270 million years before we understood why. Plant 2, Ginkgo biloba, maidenhair tree. When the atomic bomb detonated over Hiroshima in 1945, every living thing within a mile radius was destroyed, except 6 ginkgo trees. They not only survived, they were the first to bloom the following spring. A Buddhist temple was rebuilt around one of them. That tree is still alive today. Ginkgo biloba is a living fossil, unchanged for 270 million years. Chinese imperial physicians were prescribing its leaves for failing memory as far back as 2800 BCE, documented in the Shennong Bensao Jing. The tree was planted exclusively around temples. Ayurvedic physicians documented it independently. Arabian physicians of the medieval period wrote of its effects on cerebral vitality. 3 traditions, the same observation. That is not coincidence. That is the oldest clinical trial in human history. Ginkgo's flavonoids and terpenoids, specifically ginkgolides and bilobalide, improve microcirculation in the brain's cerebral vessels and act as potent antioxidants against the free radical damage that accumulates in neural tissue with age. Think of it as clearing a silted irrigation channel. The water was always there, the pathway just needed reopening. A meta-analysis published in the Journal of Alzheimer's Disease in 2015, reviewing 9 randomized controlled trials, confirmed that standardized ginkgo extract, EGB761, at 240 milligrams daily significantly improved cognitive function, neuropsychiatric symptoms, and daily living activities in mild to moderate dementia patients. Over 400 clinical trials have studied this plant. It is the most researched herbal medicine in the world. To use it, 240 milligrams daily of EGB761 standardized extract divided into 2 doses. Caution: mild blood-thinning properties. Consult your physician if you take aspirin, warfarin, or antiplatelet medications. Links in the description. Ginkgo survived the bomb. The next herb was reserved for scholars and elders. Because ancient physicians understood something, it took us until the 21st century to measure. Plant 3. Bacopa Monnieri, Brahmi. In the oldest medical texts ever written, there was one plant reserved exclusively for scholars and elders, not warriors, not kings. Because ancient Ayurvedic physicians understood that the most valuable thing a human being can lose is the clarity of their own mind. Bacopa Monnieri, Brahmi, named for Brahma, the god of knowledge, was documented in the Charaka Samhita around 900 BCE. Vedic children received it before memorizing sacred texts. Elders with failing memory were prescribed it as a matter of course. Traditional Chinese medicine documented it independently. Ancient Sri Lankan physicians described it in the Sushruta Samhita. 3 distinct traditions, 1 convergent observation. That is not coincidence, that is confirmation. Bacopa's active compounds, bacosides A and B, repair damaged dendritic nerve endings, the branching tips of neurons through which signals are transmitted, and promote new synaptic connections. Think of it as regrowing the antennae that age has broken off. Simultaneously, Bacopa modulates cortisol, reducing the neuroinflammation that chronic stress deposits into brain tissue over decades. A randomized controlled trial published in the Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine found significant improvements in delayed word recall, attention, and processing speed in adults over 55 after 12 weeks of 300 milligrams of standardized Bacopa daily. The Cochrane collaboration, the highest standard in evidence-based medicine, has confirmed the consistency of its effect on memory acquisition and retention. Modern medicine stopped listening to that research the moment it became clear that Bacopa could not be synthesized into a patentable compound. To use it, 300 milligrams daily of extract standardized to 55% bacosides taken with food. Give it 12 weeks. It is a builder, not a stimulant. Occasional mild GI discomfort in early weeks resolves with food. Links in the description. Now we come to the herb the Romans turned into a proverb, and that proverb is more medically accurate than they could have imagined. Plant 4, sage, Salvia officinalis. 2,000 years ago, Roman physicians asked a question that has never been improved upon. Cur moriatur homo, cui salvia crescit in horto. Why should a man die who has sage growing in his garden? The name salvia comes from the Latin salvare, to be saved. Medieval healers called it Salvia salvatrix, sage the savior. Greek physicians used it for failing memory. Ibn Sina, writing in the Canon of Medicine around 1020 CE, prescribed it specifically for elderly patients with cognitive decline. Persian, Greek, and Arab physicians, independent traditions, one convergent prescription. That is not coincidence. That is 1,000 years of human observation pointing at the same mechanism. Sage inhibits acetylcholinesterase, the enzyme that destroys acetylcholine, your brain's memory neurotransmitter. This is the exact molecular mechanism of donepezil, sold as Aricept, generating billions in annual revenue. The same enzyme, the same pathway, the same effect, more acetylcholine available to carry memory signals through the brain. Pharmaceutical companies spent billions developing what the Romans had growing in their gardens. They simply hadn't named the enzyme yet. A double-blind, placebo-controlled study published in Pharmacology, Biochemistry, and Behavior found that sage extract produced significant improvements in immediate word recall, delayed word recall, and attention. Follow-up research confirmed 333 milligrams daily improved memory speed and accuracy in older adults over 4 weeks. To use it, fresh sage generously in cooking provides real bioactive benefit. For therapeutic use, 300 to 600 milligrams of standardized extract daily. Caution: sage essential oil should never be consumed internally. Standardized extract and culinary sage are safe at these doses. Links in the description. The Romans were right. The question was never whether sage worked. The question was whether we were still paying attention. You have just learned that sage and a billion-dollar Alzheimer's drug share the same exact mechanism of action. That Bacopa was in clinical texts 3,000 years before neuroscience existed. That Ginkgo survived Hiroshima. This is what this channel exists to do. If this knowledge matters to you, subscribe, hit the bell. The next 3 herbs go deeper. One of them was locked in Imperial vaults under penalty of death. Let's continue. Plant 5, Ashwagandha, Withania somnifera. 4,000 years ago, Sanskrit physicians described a condition they called mind fire, the slow, invisible burning away of mental clarity caused by chronic, unrelenting stress. They had identified, without the vocabulary to name cortisol or amyloid, that this fire was the precursor to memory loss in old age, and they had a root that extinguished it. Ashwagandha, from the Sanskrit meaning smell of horse, implying it restores the strength of a stallion, is listed in the Charaka Samhita as a rasayana, a substance that actively reverses biological aging. African traditional medicine documented it independently for stress-related cognitive decline. Unani physicians prescribed it for mental exhaustion in elderly men. The same root, the same observation, 2 continents. That is not coincidence. That is convergent evidence. The active withanolides work along 2 pathways. First, they modulate the HPA axis, the system that regulates cortisol. Chronically elevated cortisol shrinks the hippocampus and accelerates amyloid-beta plaque formation, the defining pathology of Alzheimer's. Think of withanolides as a governor placed on a runaway stress engine, not sedating it, but preventing the catastrophic RPM that destroys neural tissue over time. Second, withanolide A has been shown in research published in Phytotherapy Research to directly inhibit amyloid-beta aggregation. A randomized double-blind trial in the Journal of Dietary Supplements found that 300 milligrams twice daily improved memory, attention, processing speed, and executive function in mild cognitive impairment adults over 8 weeks. Cortisol fell by an average of 27%. They knew, thousands of years before neuroscience could measure it. To use it, 300 to 600 milligrams of root extract standardized to 5% with analides, taken in the evening. Caution: use carefully with hyperthyroid conditions. Not recommended during pregnancy. Links in the description. The next herb was locked in Imperial vaults. Common people were forbidden from possessing it under penalty of death. You are about to understand why. Plant 6, Panax ginseng, Korean, Asian ginseng. For 2,000 years, the most powerful rulers on earth kept this root under lock and key. Not gold, not jade, ginseng. First documented in the Shennong Benkao Jing around 100 CE, Panax ginseng was stored in imperial palace vaults, inventoried, and dispensed exclusively to emperors. Common people caught with wild ginseng root faced execution. Korean royal courts maintained their own ginseng protocols. Tibetan physicians documented it for cerebral vitality. Native American tribes independently discovered its American relative Panax quinquefolius and used it for mental endurance, completely separate from Asian tradition. The same genus, the same documented effect, thousands of miles apart. That is not coincidence. That is the Earth offering the same answer on multiple continents. Ginsenosides, RG1 and RB1 active compounds unique to the Panax genus, protect neurons from amyloid-beta toxicity, reduce hippocampal neuroinflammation, enhance cholinergic neurotransmission, and stimulate neurogenesis in the hippocampus, the brain's primary memory center. Think of them as a complete restoration team. One crew clearing toxic debris, another rebuilding damaged infrastructure, a third generating new workers to replace those lost to age. A double-blind, placebo-controlled trial published in the Journal of Ginseng Research found that 4.5 grams of Korean red ginseng extract daily produced significant improvements in attention, working memory, and composite cognitive scores in mild cognitive impairment adults over 24 weeks. To use it, Korean red ginseng standardized extract at 200 to 400 milligrams daily, taken in the morning. Caution: stimulating not for uncontrolled hypertension, may interact with blood thinners and diabetes medications. Links in the description. Emperors were not wrong about much when it came to preserving their own minds. Now the final herb, the one that does something no plant in this list does. Something no pharmaceutical drug on the market replicates completely. Plant 7 lion's mane mushroom, Hericium erinaceus. In 8th century China, Buddhist monks consumed a cascading white mushroom before long meditation sessions, believing it sharpened the mind. They called it the mountain priest. Taoist healers considered it too precious for common use. Japanese monasteries cultivated it in guarded conditions. Korean physicians documented it for mental clarity and longevity. 3 traditions, the same mountain terrain, the same extraordinary mushroom. That is not coincidence. That is centuries of monastic observation converging on a single truth. What those monks had unknowingly discovered is one of the most significant findings in modern neuroscience. Lion's mane is the only known natural substance that stimulates endogenous synthesis of nerve growth factor NGF, the protein essential for the survival, maintenance, and regeneration of neurons. A protein discovered by Nobel laureate Rita Levi-Montalcini. A mechanism the pharmaceutical industry has spent decades trying to replicate synthetically and largely failed. Think of NGF as the instruction manual that tells your brain to maintain and rebuild its own infrastructure. Most of us, by middle age, have watched that manual's instructions begin to fade. Lion's mane reactivates the rebuilding. The landmark study was published in Phytotherapy Research in 2009, a double-blind, placebo-controlled trial by Mori and colleagues in Japan. 50 adults with mild cognitive impairment received 3 grams of lion's mane daily for 16 weeks. Cognitive improvement in the treatment group was significant. More striking, when discontinued, scores declined again over the following 4 weeks, confirming an active biological mechanism, not a placebo effect. Modern medicine stopped taking this seriously the moment someone calculated that a mushroom cannot be owned. To use it, whole fruiting body extract not mycelium on grain standardized for beta-glucan content, 500 to 1,000 milligrams twice daily. Well tolerated, caution for those with mushroom sensitivities. Links in the description. Here is the deepest truth this herb carries. The pharmaceutical industry's synthetic NGF compounds have struggled to cross the blood-brain barrier effectively. The natural compound from a mushroom that monks were eating in the 8th century crosses it with no difficulty in a biological form. The brain recognizes completely. The original is not inferior to the copy. The original is the template the copy has never been able to match. 7 herbs. Here is how to combine them without overwhelming your system or your ability to know what is working. Weeks 1 and 2 start with lion's mane and Bacopa only. These are the structural rebuilders they require the most time and benefit from an uncluttered start. Lion's mane in the morning, Bacopa with your largest meal. Week 3. Add ashwagandha in the evening. Chronic stress undoes everything else on this list, and addressing it early protects the entire protocol. Week 4. Add Ginkgo biloba in the morning. Cerebral circulation amplifies delivery of everything already in your system. Week 5. Add sage as a morning supplement and diffuse rosemary during work. These are your acetylcholine preservers, protecting the neurotransmitter environment where memory consolidation happens. Week 6. Complete the protocol with Korean red ginseng in the morning. What to expect? Weeks 2 to 4 bring improved sleep and reduced mental fatigue, primarily ashwagandha. Weeks 4 to 8, word recall and retrieval speed often improve Bacopa and Ginkgo. The deeper structural benefits of lion's mane require 10 to 16 weeks of consistency to become clearly measurable. Be patient. This is restoration, not override. One final note. This protocol is a complement to your physician's care, not a replacement. If you are on medications or managing a diagnosis, review this list with your doctor before beginning. All product links are in the description. You did not arrive at this video by accident. Something brought you here. A word that slipped away mid-sentence. A name that should have come instantly. That didn't. or watching someone you love struggle with something that used to be effortless and feeling, underneath it, a quiet fear about your own future. That fear is not weakness. It is your mind doing what minds do when they are still working well, seeking knowledge. The ancient physicians who discovered every herb in this video were not mystics. They were careful observers who wrote down what they saw over generations. They had no MRI machines. They had time, patience, and the humility to document what worked even when they could not explain why. Modern science did not disprove what they found. It confirmed it, study by study, journal by journal, the same plants, the same mechanisms, visible now at the molecular level. The knowledge survived, in Sanskrit texts, in Latin proverbs, in monastery records, in imperial inventories. What was lost was simply the willingness to look at a garden and say, "This is medicine." That willingness is what this channel exists to restore. The body does not simply deteriorate. It responds, it repairs, it rebuilds when given what it recognizes. The healing was never lost. It was only forgotten. If this video served you, please like it, subscribe, and hit the bell. And leave a comment. Which of these 7 herbs surprised you most? Or tell me what brought you to this video today. I read every one. All links, products, doses, studies are in the description below. Take care of the mind that has carried you this far.